Hey, it's Brad. So, I've said before, context is important. Largely because when you discuss any sort of a concept, the context is a large part of what defines what you're talking about. Like, for murder. Obviously, we can pretty well agree that in general murder's wrong. There's very strong debate still going on whether it's right to murder certain subsets of people. And whether I'm referring to capital punishment or abortion or genocide, it's just a different subset. And if you categorize any human ending another human's life as wrong, then your definitions are, the burden of exploring those definitions comes down to your terms on what constitutes a human doing a thing and what constitutes, an action that is, murderous. And again, with current technology, we can't accurately determine a person's motivations. But the question is whether you really need to. Because in a situation where a negative influence on society, one way or another, whether, a person is influencing people like in the standard sense and degrading their character and the term, what is it? Dereliction of a minor? No, it's... Anyway. Delinquency. All these terms that are subsets of social malfunction could be from, a negative influence that just continues to be negative upon being corrected, or someone doing outright harm. People obviously just sadistic, psychopathic people that enjoy inflicting pain on others. And there's a whole different issue with how a lot of modern culture kind of instills that, but whole different issue. But so if a person is deemed by all rules of a place to be abhorrent, a complete abomination of presence, then are they to be removed? Are they to be deprived of all human experience? Are they to be killed? Well, again, that question comes down to what you consider a human life under the hood. And that, along with the motivation point, are things that are currently, indeterminable. But the point being, since they can't be determined, pursuing any sort of a distinction that requires you to determine that is inherently flawed. And that cuts out a whole chunk of the equation there. And the question then becomes, well, if a person is a negative influence on society, can you change them? And even short of things like brainwashing or any other chemical or technological intervention in their actual processing, you can do a lot with immersion and engagement. I mean, imagine if there was a VR or augmented reality setup that was immersive enough that you really felt like you were there. And even aside from, again, any sort of additional stimuli to trick your brain, VR is getting good enough that it can give you vertigo. I mean, you can have a real sense of, falling and all this, even when your body's telling you, no, dude, you're good, just sit still. So imagine if the punishment for any crime was to fully feel the victim's side of things. And obviously there would be, elements of that especially right now would just be, distant stretch goal kind of thing. But you could tell by brain scans and standard EEG, even with the crappy signal analysis that we have right now, whether it was getting through to them. And someone having to even just sit through a movie of something like that, I mean, after a while, just the movie would get boring, would get old. But a game doesn't have to get old. You could keep things fresh. And I'm not advocating psychological torture. That's what we do now. I'm advocating understanding and not forcing or enforcing understanding. I guess that distinction is more important. Not forcing it, but enforcing it. So, you can lead them to water, but you can't make them drink. You can give them this understanding on a silver platter, as best communicated and engaging and self-driven as possible, for them to feel a sense of ownership of that experience. And then when you craft it in exactly such a way that it really sinks in the impact of whatever it is they've done, well, that's the concept of what jails and prisons were designed for, aside from keeping them out of the public. But there's a whole different issue with currently, when people get out of prison, they can't really re-enter the public anyway. Have trouble getting jobs and whatever else. There's still plenty of stigma. So, all in all, we need a system that allows people up to and including, if not especially, convicts and ex-convicts to be productive members, whether or not they are in society. And then you never have to kill anybody.